Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yashoda Nandana Braja Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Reading from Our Family Business, The Great Art of Distributing Srila Prabhupada's Books by Vaisheshika Prabhu. You can't make up stuff like this. I met a young man named Hector at Vista Point, the Golden Gate Bridge. Seen it? observation point overlooking the San Francisco Bay and city skyline. Hector had just gotten off a big tour bus when I offered him a book on a Hare Krishna. Hector, I want you to dedicate the book to me first before I give my donation. Write it in the book. My name is Hector. I wrote on the first page of the Bhagavatam 6 Canto Part 1 to Hector. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya वसे महाप्रभु किछु करे न विचारे एक दिन से अक्रूर गति रहु पारे वसे महाप्रभु किछु करे न विचारे एक दिन से अक्रूर गति रहु पारे वसी महाप्रभु किछु करे न विचारे एक दिन से अक्रूर गति रहु पारे वसी महाप्रभु किछु करे न विचारे एक दिन से अक्रूर गति रहु पारे वसी महाप्रभु किछु करे न विचारे एक दिन से अक्रूर उपारे वसी महाप्रभु किछु करे न विचारे एक दिन से अक्रूर गति रहु पारे महाप्रभु किछु करे न विचारे एक दिन से अक्रूर गति रहु पारे वसी महाप्रभु किछु करे न विचारे एक दिन once upon a time say that Akrura Gatara or the Akrura bathing gat Upare on the bank Vasi sitting Mahaprabhu Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Kichu some Karena does Vichare consideration translation of report by His Divine Grace Sri Bhatta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. One day, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat at the bathing ghat of Akrura Tirtha and fought the following thoughts. Report. Akrura Tirtha is located on the road between Vrindavan and Mathura. When Krishna and Balaram were being taken to Mathura by Akrura, the Lord rested at this place and took his bath in the Yamuna. When Krishna and Balaram took their baths, Akrura saw the entire world of Vaikuntha within the water. The inhabitants of Vrindavan also saw Vaikuntha planets within the water. Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jupiter, and fourth in the following thoughts. So Akrura, he was sent by Kamsa. He was a great devotee of the Lord. And Kamsa, after many attempts to kill Krishna, sending so many demons, and almost every day, regularly there was a demon sent by Kamsa to Vrindavan to destroy Krishna. So Krishna that was never a problem. First, the door of the mixer, because in the past they burnt and then the door was closed. This is our second mix. We just So the residents of Vrindavan, they were experiencing a demon every day, and sometimes we think that our life is difficult. We have our struggles. We have like a demon coming almost every day in our life and like destroying everything, life-threatening situations and etc. But Brijbasis were so absorbed in love of Krishna, in the service of Krishna, that it was just a temporary distraction. Those demons. The demon come, create some commotion, they create some fear, and Brijbasis would exemplify that complete surrender to Krishna as soon as there was some danger, as soon as there was some problem. Brijbasis with Krishna, call for Krishna's help, call for Krishna's mercy, and sometimes they were even confident, like in the Agasura demon when he appeared, this big massive snake, and his mouth almost was reaching the clouds, this huge thing. They were so confident that Krishna will protect them, they just confidently went inside of Agasura. This complete surrender and dependence on Krishna's mercy is the sign and symptom of this Brijbasis of those who live in Vrindavan in the spiritual world. Of course, we have embassies on the spiritual world, like Obama, Vrindavan, and Prabhupada as well called that our temples can also are Vaikuntha, and also they can be Vrindavan too. Writing argument that also Vrindavan can manifest by devotees pure devotion. So many problems and challenges may come into our life, but if we become so surrendered and absorbed and determined to take shelter of Krishna, these things will not disturb us. They're like a tests that come, and the test means either we take shelter of Krishna or we take shelter of material energy. So devotee, sincere devotee, whenever the test comes, he always grabs the lotus feet of Krishna, the lotus feet of devotee, and take shelter of the holy name, and take shelter of the process of Krishna consciousness of reading. So increases that challenges, those difficulties, and often, like we don't have like a demons necessarily coming, but often the demons can come from inside of our hearts. And if you look into Bhagavad Gita, often Arjuna, when he speaks with Krishna, and he doesn't do it actually randomly, he says, O Madhusudana, there's a demon called Madhu, O Madhusudana, the killer of demon Madhu, and some other names. He's saying, can you kill this demon of doubt? Can you kill the demon of lust or some other unwanted qualities in my heart? Because we have no power to purify our hearts ourselves. This only can happen by the mercy of Krishna. When we make an endeavor, we make an effort, but then in reciprocation with that effort, endeavor, and prayer, then Krishna purifies our hearts. So this is the whole process of Krishna consciousness, how to purify our heart, so Krishna is more and more present in our hearts. Just like a Gundicha temple, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exemplified this beautiful pastime uh, for Lord Jagannath to arrive, the master of the universe, for Krishna to arrive to Gundicha temple. First they cleansed it very nicely. And first there was like this big massive stones, and they all swept, this large particles of dust. It was massive, huge effort actually to clean it, and they throw it away. But then the job wasn't over. The next step was to cleanse very, very small, tiny particles of dust as well. So with the buckets of water, they poured it everywhere. Then with his own daughter, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was drying the situation to make it very, very nice and pure and clean for Krishna to arrive and for Krishna to reside. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explains that this cleansing effort is compared to cleansing of our heart. In the beginning, we are cleansing these big, massive rocks, with very gross manifestations of demons in our hearts, like lust and anger and envy. There's so much envy in our heart. We struggle to have a relationship with Krishna. If you envy someone, it's very, very difficult to have a loving relationship. So often we are so materially conditioned that on one hand we are attracted to Krishna to some extent, or at least to Prasadam, but on the other hand we have got some very intense desire to enjoy and be on the center and kind of competing with Krishna. We want to compete with Krishna. There's various gross manifestations of demons in our hearts, and as we become more aware of them, we realize these are actually distractions from my relationship with Krishna. These are the obstacles and the demons in my heart that needs to be dealt with. And in the beginning they're like in the most gross manifestation. And as we go on, it becomes more subtle. It becomes more subtle, various types of ego and false ego and desire for recognition, fame, adoration, distinction. So these are considered like a subtle sands that is there in sand in our heart that also needs to be purified. So we have, technically speaking, no power to kill those demons, but Krishna has this all power. Balaram has got power, but we are trying to, by our endeavor, to receive the mercy, and by that mercy of the devotee, by pleasing the devotees and pleasing Krishna, then the heart becomes cleansed and purified, and then Krishna's presence shines through more in our heart. So after sending so many demons to Vrindavan, Kamsa was unsuccessful. Then he decided that now it's time to bring Krishna and Balaram to Mathura, and he sent Akrura to bring Krishna. So Akrura went there, and he was very, very nicely received by Vrijdabasis, by Nanda Maharaj, and Yashoda, very well fed. And then he informed that actually I need to bring Krishna and Balaram back, take to Mathura. And he described, the plans of Kamsa to kill Krishna. And of course, when Krishna and Balaram heard it, they were just laughing at the plans. Even they were like young boys. Their appearance was 16 years old, I believe, but they looked like, or 14. Anybody knows how old they are when they 16, but they looked like 13 and a half, because it described the Krishna. How was it? Yes, thank you. So they looked like 16, but they were 11 years old, because they were growing so fast. Thank you. Because they were growing so fast and maturing very quickly that they looked already like 16. So it was when the residents of Vrindavan find out that Krishna will be leaving them, they were fainting, they had the heart palpitations. They couldn't even what to speak about this Krishna going away. Vrindavan Vasis, residents of Vrindavan, the love was so strong that even if they couldn't see Krishna for a few moments, they would be in anxiety. Once Krishna was playing with his cowherd friends, and he dipped into Yamuna, and he hidden behind blue lotus flowers. And because Krishna's complexion is bluish, so when he was hiding in the bluish lotus flowers, his face couldn't be seen. He kind of disappeared, and that was just like a few minutes. And the boys, the cowherd boyfriends of Krishna, they were in anxiety, running around. Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Krishna disappeared. And then Krishna then risen again from the lotus flowers, so that they can see their face, and that they can see his face. And then the cowherd boys were in ecstasy and happy again, and they're laughing. But that's just a few moments. So this whole life of Brajbasis is meeting Krishna and separating from Krishna. And this for most of the time, they don't see Krishna for a few hours, like Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda don't see him from morning until the evening. Gopis, they don't see him for a few hours. Cowherd boyfriends as well, they spend all day, so they don't see him in the evening until the night. So you could say just like a few hours of separation from Krishna, they could barely bear it. Their love was so strong. But now Akrura came and looked like Krishna is going to be away for a while. They just couldn't bear the thought of this. And then when Krishna and Balaram boarded the chariot and they were about to go, then lots of Brajbasis came to say goodbye with the tears in their eyes, including Gopis. They couldn't bear the separation that was coming, and even Krishna promised they're going to come back soon, and they just felt that maybe he won't come back. And very important lessons, and we read this morning as well from this, that Akrura actually failed to console the Gopis. He didn't kind of spend sufficient time to prepare and pacify and etc. To make them, to comfort them in that separation. And it's described that later on he suffered reaction from this. Later on, when he was living in Dwaraka, he got involved into some not very nice situation, criminal situation, and he suffered reaction. And the acharyas explained that this happened because he failed to console and pacify gopis. So it is very, very important as well lesson for us in the devotee community. Our dealings between Vaishnavas has to be, we have to follow what is called sadachar, Vaishnava behavior. We have to make sure that devotees are taken care of, that interactions are nice and Krishna conscious. Of course, being in the material world, there will be various, and the contamination of the heart will be there. There will be various types of misunderstandings, but we should work them out as soon as possible. Ask for forgiveness, beg for mercy of the devotees, apologize, and try to let it go as soon as possible. Do not hold grudges on the Vaishnavas, because even to see a Vaishnava and be unhappy, it is considered an offense. So even if you may not feel like it, if you see somebody that you don't like, feel some negative feelings, you should forgive and let it go as soon as possible, so our path is clear in Krishna consciousness. And also, if we are doing certain decisions, taking certain things forward, also the communication is very important, because you can see that was like a lack of communication, you can say, from Akrura towards the gopis. Akrura was a great devotee of the Lord. He's one of the Mahajans. He achieved perfection simply by offering prayers to the Lord. but he failed to have this clear communication with the Bhaktas, explaining what is going on, and that there is a certain duty that Krishna had to do, etc. So he didn't explain and console Bhaktas properly, and he suffered a very serious setback in his spiritual journey, despite of being a Mahajan. Of course, I'm kind of preaching to myself this principle. I'm so very poor in communication, but trying to learn on this pastime how to improve it. So then, Akrura, then he started to leave Vrindavan with his chariot, and the Brajvasis, for a while, they were following in the chariot, almost obstructing from going it. And then eventually they stopped, and they were, it's described, they become like emotionless pictures. They're standing there and watching how the chariot was going away until it disappeared in the horizon. And then Akrura stopped at this place, which is now is called Akrura Tirtha or Akrura Ghat, where Krishna and Balaram went to the Yamuna river to take bath. And then he himself took bath. So then another interesting pastime happened there. When he went to take bath himself, he left Krishna and Balaram in the chariot. But when he went to take bath, and then he started to chant Gayatri, and then he saw Krishna and Balaram there. So he just couldn't believe it. I just left them here, and they're in the water. So he went to see back to the chariot, and Krishna and Balaram were just like smiling and looking at him. And then he went back, Krishna and Balaram was in the water. So then he started to offer prayers. He just, the Supreme Lord, and just being tricked. So like that. So again, this is very interesting situation that is happening there. And Acharyas described that at this point, at the Akrura Ghat, there was like a swap, because it's described that Krishna and Balaram, they never leave Vrindavan. So at that point of the Akrura Ghat, there was a swap. Krishna and Balaram stayed in Vrindavan, they never left it. But who left with the Akrura was expansions of Krishna and Balaram. It's called the Vasudeva. The Vasudeva expansion of Krishna. So all the demon killing and fighting in the battlefield and etc. It's all done by one of the expansions of Krishna called Vasudeva. It looks exactly almost like Krishna, but Krishna, he prefers to dress in this cowherd dress. So when he leaves Vrindavan, he kind of dresses in a royal dress of a king. But in Vrindavan, he is wearing peacock's feather, he's playing flute, and he dresses very beautifully and attractively with his yellow donkey. So that is Krishna's appearance in Vrindavan. So it's described that he stays actually in Vrindavan at that point. But although he left and Vrindavan Vasis don't see Krishna from that point for a long time until he comes back, but he stays in what is called aprakat form, that it's invisible form, but at the same time Krishna is present in the minds and the thoughts of devotees. And that is the bittersweet experience of Vipralamba. And sometimes devotees wonder why Krishna is causing so much distress, as we just discussed. When devotees don't see, Vishvasis don't see Krishna for a short time, it causes them so much anxiety. But for a long time, it causes unbelievable pain. Why Krishna does that to the devotees? Because it's described that by that separation, their love grows. Because Krishna once, many times actually left gopis and rasa dance. And then later on, when they found him, he was asking him, why are you doing this to us? We can't get separation from you. And Krishna was explaining that by that separation, the feelings grow, the meeting becomes so much more joyful, so much more happy. Then after separation, when the feelings has grown significantly and there is a meeting, it's like a big festival of joy and happiness. So that's why Krishna does this as well. Of course, for a practicing devotees, this is like a very advanced platform. But at the same time, we can also practice to some extent this principle that we may be feeling separation from being Krishna conscious, because this is our original position, and there is those various demons in our hearts. So we can chant in such a way that Krishna, I am missing my original consciousness. I'm missing to love you. I'm missing to have a loving relationship with you. I am missing to always be thinking about you. Because of this various anarthas in my heart, please purify me, please uplift me, please remove those obstacles so I can always remember you, that I would never forget you, that I would always be wanting to serve you. And that's actually the only time when devotees are happy to leave Krishna is to do service for Krishna. So maybe very devotees very happily chanting and connecting with Krishna, doing a deity service, and doing so many other personal connected kind of services to Krishna. But when it comes to executing some order, then the devotee is happy to leave Krishna and render service. One of the most important services he can give is to share Krishna consciousness with others. And actually we can experience Krishna as well on the when we go out and share Krishna consciousness. Because in order to do that properly, we need to be very strongly connected with Krishna. And again, this mood of separation can come in that we are begging for Krishna, please empower me, please make me an instrument, please send the people along who are very interested in Krishna consciousness, that would benefit from this transcendental knowledge. You had a question or comment on that? Yes. Yes.
With Krishna, and then there's that danger. So is that danger applicable to a devotee who goes to the same planet where Krishna is performing his pastimes after this lifetime? Before we go directly back to Krishna's virtue, obviously you go first to a planet where Krishna is performing his pastimes. So if you're practicing, then that would imply that you're not perfect yet, which would mean there's a danger of making a mistake. So is that possible?
Because the independence of living entities there, then these things are not at least theoretically possible. I can't recall any past time where this happened. That those who, one of the gopis or whoever practiced to become advanced devotees. In the past it didn't happen, but potentially it can. But in terms of a Krura situation, better often Krishna uses his devotees to teach some lesson as well. So the lesson would be that he did a conscious mistake, but it could have been original for Krishna, so that he learned something. So Krishna does that a lot. And there's Arjuna, there's so many other devotees who seem to make a certain mistake, or like the other day I was reading about Caitanya, who is the father of Radharani. Because it was Bhatta that Lord Raghunatha gets this woolen cloth that is covered because it gets getting cold during the period. So technically speaking, I'm supposed to wash it before offering to Lord Jagannath, but Pujari didn't. So when the Vilaniti saw this, it was actually a mistake on a Pujari's part. He was very, very critical in his mind. Then in a dream, he didn't even say anything. But in a dream, when Lord Jagannath appeared and he was slapping him, because actually the Pujari is like associate of the Lord, so one has to be very careful what one thinks and how one acts. There's so many actually examples that we almost feel like very careful and be around the devotees. But this is to actually warn us that we actually should be really on our best behavior and try our best to refrain from having this very critical mentality. The Brahminical approach is often actually to teach and educate, like for example, Vaisheshika Prabhu, he goes around the temple and he has this notepad where he makes a note of all the things that needs to be addressed. And he doesn't go just straight away and just tells person that this is wrong, which means something is maybe necessary in this emergency situation. But generally speaking, there is a number of steps that can be done before that. Because otherwise it's like you can break up a relationship, it can become a personal issue, and you become like an enemies. Something you just looking for. When one person does fall, and then another is gonna catch and say, "Hey, what you doing?" And report it. Report it. But actually, there's a number of steps before that can be done in a cultural Vaishnava Sangha. So Visheshika Prabhu, he gathers a list of things that needs to be addressed, and he makes a seminar. There's a seminar, and then the things are taught. And also consider that Kali Yuga memory is very poor. Then there can be a series of seminars, maybe a regular seminar to remind you of this again and again. So if you say something once, that will not be sufficient. But just like Krishna was prepared in Bhagavad Gita to repeat the lesson again, he said, we still have any doubts, do you have any questions after he presented Bhagavad Gita? And it was prepared, Prabhupada explained, it was prepared to explain it again. So it needs to be done again and again and again. Until it becomes a culture and there's an understanding that this match should be done. And then still there's a problem, then you can approach a person. So there's many steps before approaching a person directly and saying this is wrong, unless it's an emergency situation. There's a number of steps that we can do before that.
I was just wondering about the other one as well. You were saying that if you see a devotee and you're not happy, and you see the devotee, you want to go the other way, and that's an offence on your. Is it an offence on your part, or is it an offence that the devotee is behaved in such a way that when you see you want to go the other way?
No, Prabhupada wanted us to take generally at least 50% of the responsibility. So it's not more like somebody goes away, take 50% responsibility. You can say, because this person had a lax sadhana, it was offensive, it was this and that, and everything. And then you can just blame person, and then you don't have anything to do. And then you just wait for another person to come, and then they go away and say, okay, this, and this was wrong with the person. So I'm happy they went, and then another person, one. So in that way, there's nothing improving on our side. It's always somebody else's fault. The Prabhupada said it's 50%, and it can be applied not just in the fact that somebody goes away, but also in some other situations, like there's some misunderstanding between devotees. As Mahatma Prabhu said, for tango, you need two people to dance. So if you take, you can take 50% responsibility in any situation. Sometimes another person behaves in a certain way, because we're actually provoking it subconsciously. I've experienced it many times myself, without relationship with someone. You actually subconsciously like make a person's life difficult, and therefore they behave as well even worse than with you. So you need to break that cycle of this and just forgive and let go and we take responsibility for situations, then we can improve. There's so much we can do, so we can do much about another person, how they react, that we can do so much about how we react and how we create situations. So this is actually called culture. There is in many companies, they actually not psychologically, but deliberately work on a certain culture. You know, like this is how we deal with the problems, this is how we do things, and etc. And then they almost like a hammer in the people's heads, meeting after meeting, treating, for example, client as whatever, very nicely, uh, and just hammering the point until actually everybody, all the staff, are treating the clients very nicely. And sometimes, unless you hammer something when you hand we are, then we are totally out of alignment with what the culture is of the Vaishnavas. We may be doing certain things in our life every day and thinking this is Krishna conscious. We may not be at all. We need to completely out of alignment of sadhaka. And suddenly you think that I can do this because Prabhupada did this, but often it's not the case. Prabhupada can do something and we have to find some other solutions because we're not in that position and authority and superiority as Srila Prabhupada. So then we address many problems through the culture. And by speaking and discussing and learning that culture, we can see how we are out of alignment. And then we can do something about it. Because often, unless we speak about it, we may not be completely unaware. I'm not acting how the Vaishnava is supposed to be acting. I'm becoming like I may be thinking I'm helping the community, but maybe I'm actually destroying the peace in the community by the things that I'm doing, how I'm addressing the problems, and maybe destroying the peace in the community and making it worse rather than making it better. So therefore, we have to really learn those subtleties of communication. I mean, I'm the worst myself. I'm just trying to think about it and see how we can do things better. And then one of the most important things is like some of the temples or the companies, they have a code of conduct and policies that define interactions between devotees, so in the organization. No?
Yeah, there's a nice quote from Bhattisiddhanta. He says, when the faults and mistakes of others misguide and delude you, then introspect and see the faults in yourself. And he says, nobody can harm you unless you harm yourself. And I was reflecting on that, and to me, what that seems to mean is that when you become critical of somebody, you harm yourself because they take away your humility and your forbearance and your tolerance. So if you don't allow yourself to ever not be anything but humble, then you can't be harmed by anybody because you never step out of that kind of circle of protection, you see. It's only when you become deluded and misguided by being absorbed and preoccupied by somebody else's fault that you suddenly shed that humility, and so then you actually put yourself in a situation where you can get harmed.
Yes. Yeah, when I was in the Govardhaniko village, the culture is so powerful there, and it doesn't fall from the sky. It's actually systematically cultivated through education, through education is the main thing. An example, education, an example of the devotees. It was such a powerful culture in terms of dealings and interactions and etc. There was barely any space for any offense or somebody just going whatever out of Vaishnava behavior and creating some apparatus. There was no space for it whatsoever. So how we can create that culture? This is a big challenge, and that is actually one of the most important services of leaders is the cultural development, to create a culture. in which everything flourishes, that there is no spaces for offenses, that there is hearing and chanting is the very important, fundamental, and the most important principle, in that culture, and that will start to flourish. And the relationships as well are good, because if the relationships goes down and offenses manifest, then the sadhana goes down, the taste goes down, inspiration for rendering service goes down, and there's so many problems manifest. Yes, when the relationships goes better, the sadhana is better, the taste for the chanting is better, for reading, everything flourishes. So, we come to this point, and this is the really that we're trying to achieve, is to create a relaxed atmosphere in our hearts, in our minds, in our dealings. And also setting an example is one of the most important things that Prabhupada emphasized when there was some problems. Because if we are ourselves, making so many mistakes and completely out of alignment, and then we criticize others, it would be very difficult for people to take it seriously. Because you think, this person is criticizing, but they're doing, a lot more mistakes than me. But if we are setting an example, very exemplary son, very serious in Krishna consciousness, then our words will have a lot of powerful effect to really care, for others. One of the best and most important things is to keep growing ourselves, because if we keep growing ourselves, we have a lot more to offer. And if we have a lot more to offer, we can fix so many problems. Ultimately, Krishna can fix anything, any problem, but it has to be based on a Krishna consciousness. It's just not just a material arrangement to fix a problem. You know already that there is no material solutions to spiritual problems. It's not like a fixing and something externally that's going to solve the problem, but it's actually by increasing our own level of Krishna consciousness and the level of Krishna consciousness of others. So as our Krishna consciousness grows, then we'll be able to fix a lot of problems, on that spiritual level, and Krishna will make arrangements for the problems to get fixed. And we'll send the people along to help us. So there's no other solution actually than to become more Krishna conscious. And of course, sharing Krishna consciousness, we get a lot of mercy. But again, we can't do that at the expense of sadhana. It's overflow that we're distributing. So let's stop here. Shri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai. Shri Prabhupada Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande.